Fourth, the unjustifiable relationship between the concepts of human rights and national sovereignty. Despite the fact that the concept of human rights has been propagated in much more detail and has gained considerable traction as the foundation of the current democratic ideal based on constitutionalism, the rule of law and pluralism, in reality, the relationship between the two concepts, the concept of national sovereignty, always prevails when in conflict with the concept of human rights. In the war in Syria today, we may not agree with Senior General Tang Duc Dao, but in practice, the governments of the USA, England and France all insisted that their air attacks were only aimed at punishing Syria for utilizing chemical weapons and were not meant to achieve regime change. In other words, they recognize the national sovereignty of Syria, and at least for now, through the leadership of the al-Assad regime. Due to the limits mandated in these air attacks, and the prior warnings to minimize damages to Syrian civilians as well as Russian military facilities and personnel, the laters belonging to a redoubtable superpower, the Syrian government was able to evacuate and protect its military potential. Meanwhile, immediately after the air attacks by the USA, England, and France, the armed forces of President al-Assad made advances, took over the whole territory of eastern Ghouta, and extended the control of the Syrian government. In other words, the concept of human rights receded before the power of the concept of national sovereignty in Syria, not only in the hearts of Western politicians but also on concrete political grounds. This should not be news to us. When we cast our view onto the past, the Vietnam War, which finished in 1975, was also influenced by this unjustifiable relationship between the concepts of human rights and national sovereignty. Indeed, during the ideological war in Vietnam, we could not help but notice that the USA and other allies of the Republic of Vietnam, South Vietnam, despite their deep awareness of violations of human rights by communist regimes in the world and in Vietnam, explicitly proclaimed their respect for the national sovereignty of Communist Vietnam, North Vietnam, and never proposed to invade North Vietnam. Meanwhile, Communist Vietnam did not hesitate to infiltrate territories of the Republic of Vietnam, and initiated a general offensive to invade the whole country on the 30th of April 1975. The world political order in the aftermath of World War II in substance is an order orchestrated by the USA, and for this reason, communist nations only gave their perfunctory consent. Thus, Communist Vietnam was always ready to trash human rights and the national sovereignty of the Republic of Vietnam. The inevitable result was defeat for the free world and victory for communism.